Here's everything you might have missed in the Wheel of Time trailer. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, and today, after months and months and months of waiting, some Taviran over at Amazon twisted the fabric of the pattern enough to finally release a trailer for The Wheel of Time. Based on Robert Jordan's critically acclaimed and long-running fantasy novels, The Wheel of Time is a sweeping saga of good versus evil, ancient prophecies, powerful magic, and people spending more time in various inns and taverns than your D&D group. Now, ever since the first novel, The Eye of the World, debuted in 1990, fans have been eagerly awaiting a proper on-screen adaptation of this series. And now Beltane has come at last, and we're finally getting the present that we've all been waiting for, a Wheel of Time TV show coming to Amazon Prime Video on November 19th. Now, in case you were brand new to the world of The Wheel of Time, here's the synopsis for the show. Set in a sprawling epic world where magic exists and only certain women are allowed to access it, the story follows Moiraine, Rosamund Pike, a member of the incredibly powerful all-female organization called the Aes Sedai, as she arrives in the small town of Two Rivers. There she embarks on a dangerous world-spanning journey with 5 young men and women, one of whom's prophesied to be the Dragon Reborn, who'll either save or destroy humanity. We're going to break down the first trailer for the show in just a moment, including all the Easter eggs and subtle details that you might have missed. And as always, if you prefer to read all about it, our own Amerlin seat, Amy Radcliffe, has you covered over on Nerdist.com. And while we'll try not to spoil too many of the major plot points in the book and the show, if you don't want to be spoiled at all, leave now and look before you leap. Alright, let's get into it, shall we? So the trailer begins with 2 of the book's main characters, Egwene Alvir and Nynaeve Almira, standing atop a cliff near their home, the small village of Emond's Field in the Two Rivers. Nynaeve is the village wisdom, a healer and leader of the local women's circle. She has the mysterious ability to predict the weather with startling accuracy. Egwene is being trained to follow in Nynaeve's footsteps, and it seems like this is some kind of ritual meant to build up Egwene's resolve, as evidenced by Nynaeve telling Egwene to be strong before she yeets her off a cliff. Next, we see sweeping shots of the Two Rivers and the bustling village of Emond's Field. The first book begins with the villagers preparing for a festival called Beltane, which celebrates the arrival of spring. And it looks like they're preparing for that right here. In voiceover, we hear Moiraine, a member of the incredibly powerful all-female spellcasting group the Aes Sedai, speak the words that open the first chapter of all 14 books. The wheel of time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Now, as this happens, we see 3 of our heroes, Rand al'Thor, Mat Cauthon, and Perrin Aybara, sharing drinks at the Wine Spring Inn, the local watering hole run by Egwene's father. These 3 are the reason that Moiraine will journey to Emond's Field in the first place, because she believes one of them to be the long-prophesied Dragon Reborn, a hero of legend who will ultimately lead the forces of good against the Dark One in the final battle known as Tarmon Gai'dan. Egwene then walks into the inn and she and Rand make eyes at each other, which, good for them. We next see a brief shot of presumably Moiraine, her warder/bodyguard Lan, Rand, Mat, and Perrin fleeing the Two Rivers on horseback. After that, as Moiraine talks about memories, we see a weeping man kissing a small gold object as tears roll down his face. This is most likely a flashback of Lews Therin Telamon, the previous dragon who went mad and killed himself. Based on what we'll see later in the trailer, that also appears to be an Aes Sedai ring he's holding, depicting a snake eating its own tail, or an Ouroboros if you're nasty. After that, we see Egwene emerging from a pool full of colored liquid, and this isn't from the books, but it appears to be related to the Aes Sedai, which are broken into different factions known as Ajas, each of which have a distinct color to represent them. Speaking of the Aes Sedai, the very next shot shows us Tar Valon, the island the Aes Sedai call home. That massive structure on the hill is the White Tower where the Aes Sedai live, study, and train. In the background, we can see Dragonmount looming large over the horizon. This legendary volcano was created by Lews Therin Telamon during an event called the Breaking of the World, a time when male Aes Sedai went mad and destroyed much of the world after the Dark One tainted their connection to the One Power, the source of all magic in this world. We see Moiraine in a blue cloak, signifying that she's a member of the Blue Aja of the Aes Sedai. The Blue Aja have a reputation for involving themselves in causes they deem to be righteous, and they also have a sprawling spy network. We then get a much better look at the Aes Sedai ring, better known as the Great Serpent Ring, which features a snake eating its own tail to signify the constantly moving Wheel of Time. After that, we get to see the Hall of the Tower, where the Aes Sedai Council gathers to discuss various matters. Each of the 7 Aja have 3 representatives known as sitters, and as you can see, there are reds, grays, yellows, blues, whites, greens, and browns. The woman on the throne there is Swan Sanche, the Amerlin seat, a title given to their elected leader. In the books, the Amerlin wears a multicolored stole featuring stripes of each Aja. It's a very subtle design here, though. New to Swan's design, though, and character are those tattoos, so keep your eyes peeled. They might have a greater significance. After that, we see a sister of the Green Aja, presumably Alana Mosvani, healing an injured Moiraine. In the books, Aes Sedai tap into the One Power by channeling the female half of it known as Sidar. They weave flows of magic which are visualized here as ethereal white threads. In voiceover, she discusses the One Power, the magical force used by women like Aes Sedai to protect the world from evil. For example, we see an awful lot of that One Power swirling above Emond's Field in the next shot. Next, we see several sisters of the tempestuous Red Aja doing what they do best, looking absolutely furious all the time, always. Then we see Liane Sharif, the Keeper of the Chronicles, the Amarlinseed's right-hand woman, and she bangs a golden flame staff on the ground known to book readers as the Amarlin Staff. Moving on, we see what appears to be Alana once again using the One Power, but this time she channels flows of air to stop arrows mid-flight, and she's flanked by Yvonne, one of her warders, sworn bodyguards that are bound to the Aes Sedai through a magical bond. The full shot reveals a larger group of soldiers, as well as Red Aja and Green Aja Aes Sedai, and what appears to be even more warders as well. Now you should note the Reds have no warders because their Aja typically eschews having them. After that, we get another sweeping shot of Tar Valon, followed by Rand knocking an arrow and shooting his bow at something off-screen. Most likely it's a raven, because much like in Lord of the Rings, these birds are sometimes used as spies and agents of the Dark One. In the background of this shot, we see what appears to be a walled fortress city, perhaps Faldara. Next, we see Mat doing what he does best, getting into trouble. He's picking up a ruby-hilted dagger in the city of Shadar Logoth. Now, without giving too much away, let's just say this is extremely important. The city of Shadar Logoth is tainted by an evil so foul, even the Dark One's forces fear to enter. It's plagued by a shapeless entity known as Mashadar, which we see creeping over the city in subsequent shots. After that, we see Mat looking away from a dead man in a cage who's possibly Aiel, a member of the group of desert-dwelling people who are feared for their prowess as warriors, and derided by fancy city folk and castle dwellers as barbarians and savages. Next, we see a wolf baring its fangs at Perrin, and as the story progresses, you'll see exactly why this is so important. Moving on, we see Rand and Egwene sitting by a fire in various stages of undress, and it looks like they are significantly hotter and heavier than they are in the books. And they might have celebrated Beltane a little early in the common room of the Wine Spring Inn, so let's hope that her dad doesn't find out that it's become the Wine Spring In and Out. It's a sharp contrast with the next shot of an exhausted Mat and Perrin sitting in the crumbling edifice of a building presumably in Shadar Logoth. We then get a brief shot of Rand's dad, Tam al'Thor, talking about how the wheel keeps on turning, and as we'll see, this guy, so many secrets, he hates telling his son anything. After that, we get a startling match cut of Emond's Field villagers dancing at Beltane, which quickly cuts to a group of dead bodies wrapped in white shrouds encircling Aes Sedai, and then again to an overhead shot of the Hall of the Tower. So perhaps this is the aftermath of an attack on Emond's Field, or maybe they're showing us just how interconnected the fates of the common people of the two rivers and the Aes Sedai will be soon enough. Next, we see a spooky-looking shot of a Myrddraal on horseback. Known as half-men, these eyeless murder monsters are twisted agents of the Dark One, and definitely evocative of the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings. Then we get our best shot yet of Lan Mandragoran, Moiraine's warder, and a certified badass who has a warning about the Dark One coming for Rand and company. This is followed by a shot of a Myrddraal leading beastly shadow spawn called Trollocs into battle. So basically imagine if Sho Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist had to make a whole bunch of infantry for Satan himself, and you have an idea of what the Trollocs are. Now, their appearance is followed by Rand and Mat running for their lives in what appears to be Emond's Field. We then see Lan fighting a group of brigands in the woods, followed by a chilling shot of a man channeling the One Power. This is Logain, and he's imprisoned by the Aes Sedai because any man who's able to channel the One Power is doomed to ultimately go mad because the Dark One tainted saidin, the male half of the power. Next, we see a shot of Nynaeve breathing heavily in the woods. It seems to be during that same battle we saw Lan fighting earlier. And here she has her signature braid, which she frequently tugs when angry, which, in the books, is like all the time, always. After that, we see Moiraine walking into the Hall of the Tower as Swan Sanche warns that the last battle is coming. As mentioned previously, the last battle, Tarmon Gaiden, will be mankind's last stand against the Dark One and the forces of evil. Without the Dragon Reborn, there is no hope of victory. And that's really hammered home by a shot of Trolloc forces cresting a hill in the very next shot. Next, we see Moiraine riding her horse Aldib, Lan serving looks, that group of soldiers attacking the Aes Sedai after their failed volley of arrows from earlier in the trailer, Nynaeve becoming Knife Neve to protect herself and Egwene, and then a shot of what appears to be Steppen, a warder of Kareen Sedai of the Green Aja. He's about to attack someone being held in place by the One Power, which should deal an additional 46 points of damage. After that, we see Lan turning Trollocs into loose meat, followed by Rand, Perrin, Mat, Nynaeve, and Egwene, the Emond's Field 5, meeting up with Lan and Moiraine at a Waygate. Now, Waygates are access points to something called the Ways, an extra-dimensional series of passages created by creatures known as the Ogier, who we'll see more of in future trailers. Basically, they're like big friendly druidic bugbears that love building stuff. They rule. The trailer culminates with a nightmarish shot of a Myrddraal and chaos erupting in Emond's Field as Trollocs attack in force. Moiraine channels a metric ton of the One Power to fight off these Shadow Spawn alongside her warder Lan in a seriously awesome sequence that I feel sets the tone for this high fantasy series. Because between Lord of the Rings and The Wheel of Time, Amazon's making a major power play to fill the Game of Thrones shaped hole in our hearts and in the prestige television landscape. And based on this first look, I for one am cautiously optimistic this could be the adaptation that I and so many other fans have been waiting for. Of course, we'll have to wait until November 19th to find out for certain, but if you want to delve deeper into the world and lore of The Wheel of Time, we have plenty of guides, explainers, and other essays waiting for you over on Nerdist.com. In the meantime, though, tell me, what did you think of this trailer? Did you spot anything that we missed? And what do you hope to see from this series? Let me know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.